Hi there, Namaste. So in the previous video, we have installed the SCCM completely. So what to do after installing the SCCM? So let's discuss about first things first, which means the discovery of configuration manager. So we need to discover the things, which means the discovery methods. Okay. So why we are using the discovery methods? To find device and user resources that you can manage. Okay. So the devices and the users which are available in our hierarchy. Okay. And also to identify network infrastructure in your environment. Okay. And also discovery is the process by which the configuration manager learns about the things you can manage. That are following are the available discovery methods. When you open the administration tab and the hierarchy configurations, there you can find out the discovery methods. And these are the discovery methods which are available right now. The first one is the Active Directory forest discovery, and then the group discovery, and then the system discovery, and user discovery, and hotbit discovery, and finally network discovery. So you can observe that we are mentioning Active Directory in front of every discovery here. Okay. Mainly these four things: forest, group, system, and user. So we already know that we extended the AD schema, and also we provided full rights to the configuration manager over the Active Directory. So to discover the forest, the domains, and also the groups and the systems and users, the discovery methods will use the Active Directory data to find out the resources. So there is one of the reason we mentioning Active Directory system discovery or Active Directory user discovery like that. Okay. So next, let's see the Active Directory forest discovery. Okay. So it is configurable and it's not enabled by default. Okay. So the accounts we can use to run this method. The first one is the Active Directory forest account. It's the user defined. So which means you can create one account, okay, in your ADUC, I mean Active Directory users and computers. So you can create one user account and you can define that account as the Active Directory forest account. Okay. And second one is the computer account. So you can use the computer account of the site server, which means our primary site server. Okay. And then, unlike the other discovery methods, Active Directory forest discovery, I mean, it doesn't discover resources that you can manage. Okay. So which means, so we have the dedicated system discovery, right? So which means it will only discover the devices. I mean, computers and the kiosk devices like that. So like that, we have the particular discovery methods which are discovering the resources, right? So this Active Directory forest discovery doesn't discover the resources. Instead, it will discover the network locations. Okay. When this method runs, it searches the local Active Directory forest, each trusted forest, and other forests that you can configure in the Active Directory forest discovery node of the configuration manager console. So whatever you configured in this console, configuration manager console, those forests only it will discover, it will search on those forests only for the resources. Use the Active Directory forest discover, I mean to discover Active Directory sites and subnets, and then create the configuration manager boundaries based on those networks. Okay. And identify supernets that are assigned to Active Directory site and convert those supernets into IP address range boundaries. Okay. So actions for this Active Directory forest discovery are recorded in the following logs. So we know that each and everything will be recorded in the log files. So for this also we have the log files such as Active Directory forest disc.log. So it will be located in the installation path and log files. For example, you have installed in the D drive. So you can say D drive and then the program files and then Microsoft Configuration Manager and then logs. Okay. So here you can find this log. And also we can find the another logs, which is Active Directory forest discovery publishing actions are recorded in the h1.log and sitecomp.log. So these also available in the same location. Fine. So let's see how this forest discovery runs and some more details about this forest discovery practically. Okay. So this is the Active Directory forest discovery. So we need to go to the properties. So here we need to enable these check marks. Okay. Enable the Active Directory forest discovery and automatically create Active Directory site boundaries when they are discovered, and automatically create IP address range boundaries for subnets when they are discovered. Okay. So these two options we need to keep. Actually, these are not mandatory things, so it's optional. Okay. So once you selected these options and selected the schedule as well, and then click OK. So once you click OK, it will run the discovery. Otherwise, you can use the right click and run the forest discovery now. So once it is discovered, so we can check the log files. So we can have the log files in the installation directory. So this is the installation directory for me. The program files, Microsoft Configuration Manager, and logs. So here you can find this thing. AD forest DISC. So I'm opening this log. So this is the forest discovery. Okay. So it is starting the component, site component. Okay. So which is SMS underscore AD underscore forest discovery manager. Okay. So once it is started, see the component is marked active, which means it is started. So once it is run, it will find out the forest in our hierarchy. Okay. So I already informed the forests which are configured within the console. Okay. Those forests only it will discover, right? So where we can configure. So here it is, Active Directory forest. So initially for the first time, you don't need to configure anything here. So it will take automatically the domain name. Okay. So after discovered the forest discovery, if you want to add any new domains or new forests, you need to specify here like add forest. So you can specify the suffix and the description and the account we need to use. Okay. Here also the signs and everything. So once you specify the forest here, it will have the forest in this section. And then once you discover the forest discovery, it will run the forest discoveries again. Okay. So once the forest discovery is run successfully, so you can find the boundaries such as default site name, Active Directory boundary. So our next discovery method is group discovery. So next, group discovery. Okay. So it's also configurable and not enabled by default. The accounts you can use for these methods, Active Directory group discovery account. It's also user defined. So you can create one user account and you can configure as the Active Directory group discovery account. And as well as it will use the computer account to run the discovery method. Okay. So use this method to search Active Directory domain services to identify local, global, and universal security groups, and then the membership of the groups, and limited information about the group member computers and users. Okay. So what it is saying limited information means we have the dedicated discovery method for the computers and the users as well. Okay. So this one it will get some limited information. So if you want full information, you can run the system discovery and the user discovery. Then you can find out the complete details about the computers and the users. Okay, fine. And also one thing, so it will get information even when other discovery method hasn't previously discovered those computers and users. Okay. So if anything missed while discovering the system discovery and the user discovery, this group discovery will discover those computers and users which will which we provided the location for this group discoveries. Okay. So actions for this discovery will be recorded in this log file adscdis.log in the installation directory. Okay. So let's see it in practically. So this is the group discovery here. So this right now it is disabled, so we can enable this one. So right click and then properties. So here we need to select this option, enable active directory group discovery, and then add. So here you can see two options, which is groups and the locations. Okay, so you can directly provide the group name, so then it will discover the resources in the group. Otherwise you can provide the location. Location means the OU. So if you provide the OU name, it will discover the resources inside that OU. So we'll see the both options. Okay, so before that we need to configure the groups first. So I'd like to configure some groups. So for that I need to open the Active Directory users and computers. So here we have already some accounts OUs here. So we have the user accounts already. So I'd like to add some more users here. So new users, and I'm going to name it as the user one. So okay, fine. So we have three users here. So I'd like to create one group. So we can use that group to discover. So I'm providing new group. So here you can select this group scope, domain level, I mean local, global, and universal. Okay. So I'm using the global and security type. So I can name it as the users group. Okay. User group one. Okay. So, and I like to add the members here. So in the groups, I mean in the user groups, we have the three users. Okay. So let's find the discovery. So here we have the properties, and I'm adding the groups here. So I need to provide the group name. So I'd like to provide the user group. I mean the discovery name here. So I can add here. So I'll browse. I'll browse for user group one. So I'm adding the group here. Okay. So you can use the options like use the default domain and the forest, or specify the domain control name. So if you want to discover any other domain, so you can provide the names here. And also, if you are using the site computer account, you can provide this one. Otherwise, if you're using any specified Active Directory user account, I mean the group discovery account, you can provide those content. Okay. So I'm going for the default only. So click OK and apply. So it is asking, do you want to run the full discovery as soon as possible? So yes and OK. So now we can find the ADSGDIS. Okay. So we need to wait for some time. So we need to create the log files. Here you have the ADSGDIS log. So here it is finding the user group. So it is successfully updated the group membership table, user group one, and also it found the user group 2 and 3 and also 1. So this is the user group discovery log file completely. Okay. So you have the component as well. So here the component, which is the SMS ID security group discovery agent. Okay. So using this, so it is validated the path which we are provided, and also it discovered the group members as well. So we can validate in other way also. So go to the console and open the assets and compliance section. If you found the users here, okay, it found the user group and as well as the users inside that group. Okay, user one, user two, and user three. So like this, we can discover the user, I mean the group discovery. Okay. So now we'll discover the group discovery by using the location. So here I'm selecting the locations here instead of groups. So select the location. So here we need to provide the location, which means the OU. So I'm naming it as OU group discovery. Okay. Then we need to provide some location. So for that as well, I need to open the ADUC, and I'm gonna create one new OU. Okay, new OU. This will be user group OU. Okay. So inside this OU, so I like to create one group. Okay. So select the group. So I'm going to name it as the user group 2. Okay. And okay. So for the members, so I've already created the some users here, user 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So I'm going to provide these users as the members for the user group 2. So you can select the users and right click and add to the group and browse user group 2 and check names and OK. See, successfully added. You can check it out. User group 2 members. You have these 3 members. So now specify here in the discovery. So now we are providing the OU only. Okay. So select the user group OU and then OK. So here we are providing the recursively, and we can provide the account or computer account as you wish. So now click apply and OK. Go to right click and then run the full discovery now. So now it will run the full discovery, the group discovery, and it will find the user group 2, and then it will find out the users inside that group. Okay. So let's check it out, the log file. Okay, see, so it found the user group 2 and as well as the users inside the user group 2. So you can check it in the console as well. So go to the SSN compliance users. See, we have the user group 2 and as well as the users inside the group. Okay. So like this, we can configure and we can run the Active Directory group discoveries. Okay. So we'll go for the next discovery, which is the Active Directory system discovery. So this is the Active Directory system discovery. So it is already configurable and it's not enabled by default. So for this also you can use the user-defined account or the computer account. So this method, use this method to search a specified Active Directory services locations for the computer resources mainly, and also the devices, which means the devices which is based on the IP addresses, like kiosk devices or the network devices like that. So by default, this method discovers the basic information about the computer, including the computer name, OS and version, AD container name, IP address, and the AD site timestamp of the last sign. Okay, so like which means the last logon timestamp. Okay, last logon stamp. So to successfully create a DDR file for a computer, this method must be able to identify the computer account and then successfully resolve the computer name to an IP address. Okay. So once it is discovered, it will create a file which is called a DDR file, and it will provide this to console on the primary side. It will process and it will write down it in the database. Okay. So the actions for this Active Directory system discovery, we have the file here adsfs.dis.log. Okay. In the default location, installation path location. So let's see it in practical. So this is the system discovery. Right click and properties. So here we already provided the OU, which is the device accounts OU. So I'll show you here. This is the device accounts OU. So we have the two device resources. Okay. So once we provided this OU, so for this only we need to provide the location directly. So we can't provide the groups. So you need to click this golden star icon and then provide the path here. The OUs only. Once you provide the path, it will discover the sources inside that OU. Okay. So for this, once you provided the path and you can run the discovery. So in the SSN compliance, you can find the devices here in the devices section. You have the devices client 01 and client 02. Okay. So this is the system discovery. So we have the log file here, adsfs.dis. So here you can find the resources. I'll scroll up here a little bit. So you can find the devices names because it ran a few days ago, so it's why I need to find the exact timing. Let me scroll up a little bit. See, system is discovered. It is also but then CL01 and CL02. So okay, fine. The next discovery method is the AD user discovery. So let's see. So AD user discovery is also configurable and not enabled by default. So we can use the system account or the user defined account. So if we have the information about the username, we need username, which includes the domain name and the domain and the AD site container name. So it means in which the AD it is available. So for these actions, we have the AD us or dis.log in the installation path. Okay. So this is the log file AD us or dis. So here you can find the users. Okay. See, even you run the discovery of the group discovery method, so it is also automatically search for the users, and it will find the user 5, 4, 6 and the 1, 2, 3 users as well. Okay, so this is the user discovery .log. So here you can find the resources, I mean details of the log file. So in the here, when you open the right click and the properties, here also need to provide the location, the path, the OU. So once you provide the location, it will discover the users inside that location. Okay. So once you provided the path, you need to run the discovery. So, and finally, we have the heartbeat discovery, which is enabled by default. Okay. So this is the only discovery which will be enabled by default. Okay. So the remaining are disabled by default. So you need to enable manually if you are required the discovery method. Okay. So unless you don't require that discovery methods, no need to enable that one. Okay. So only if you require the discovery method, run that one. That is the best practices. So and then finally we have the network discovery. This thing it's already enabled by default, so no need to configure. And this thing only we can configure when we have the huge network. You can say mesh devices and the topology devices, and it's like a huge network. Okay, so once we have the huge network, then only we can able to discover this network discovery. So if it is a small network and small environment, no need to discover this thing. Okay, so we can see the theoretically about these discoveries. So this is the heartbeat discovery, and it is configurable and enabled by default, and it will use the computer account. So these differ from the other discovery methods. That is correct, and it's enabled by default. It will run on each computer instead of on the site server. Okay, to create a DDR file. And here it's saying don't disable the heartbeat discovery. Okay, so even if you have the option to disable this thing, so please don't disable the heartbeat discovery. So it is very much needed for the configuration manager clients. So in addition, to maintain the database record, so this method can force the force discovery of a computer as a new record, okay, new resource record. It can also repopulate the database record of a computer that was deleted from the database. Okay. So for example, if any system was deleted from the database, so if we run the discovery method, it will discover the systems again as the new resource record, and it will repopulate the database record and will point to the database. Okay, that is the exact meaning of these lines. So we can also manually run the heartbeat discovery on a specific client by running the discovery data collection cycle. So we have the actions right in the configuration manager applet. So and we have the like 11 actions. So one of the action is the discovery data collection cycle. So if you run this cycle, it will manually fetch the heartbeat discovery. Okay. So when the discovery runs, this heartbeat discovery runs, it will create a DDR file that has client's current information. The client then copies this small file to the management point and to the primary site. So it can process there. Okay. This DDR file is about to 1 KB sizing, okay, 1 KB in size. So this small file will send to the management point, and then to the primary site to process. So what details it have means the network location, network name, version of the client agent, and operational status details. Okay. And this Herbert discovery is only discovery methods that provides the details about the client installation status. So it's the main thing. So it does so by updating system resource client attribute to set a value equal to us. So if you want to know the client installation status, so this hardware discovery is necessary. Okay, that is why do not disable hardware discovery even if you have the option. Okay, the actions are recorded in this log file inventory agent.log. Okay, so hardware discovery is very much important. That's why the configuration manager by default it is enabled. Okay, so the next thing is the network discovery. So it is configurable and not enabled by default. So it will use the computer account, and this method will be used to find the topology of the network and to discover the devices in your network, in our network, that have the IP address. So devices which having IP address means we can simply say as the routers. Okay, routers or the like printers which have the shared printers which have the IP address. Okay, like that. And network discovery searches your network for IP enabled resources by finding the following sources. So it will query the servers that run on Microsoft implementation of a DHCP and the ARP address resolution protocol and SNP and Active Directory domains. So it will query these things and it will find the devices. So below I have the three examples, and this discovery activity will be recorded in the netdis.log, okay, in the default location. So here I have some examples. Okay, so once you run the discovery method in the server one, so it will discover the router one also. Okay, and if it is running in the server one, it will discover the client 6 clients here and the router one and some other devices which are inside these connections. Okay, so here it is a main topology. So these are the examples. We have the options to select in the network discovery method. Okay, so I'll show you some example here. So once you click on the properties, so if you lost, see, enable the network discovery. So what we need to enable, like I have the three options: topology and client, topology, client, and client operating system as well. Okay, and also have the subnets we need to configure, domains we need to configure, and the DHCP and the schedule. Okay, so like this we need to configure everything, then only it will able to discover the things inside our network environment. So this is about the discovery methods. Hope you understand the discovery methods. So next thing we're going to see boundaries and boundary groups. So boundaries in the configuration manager define network locations. Okay, and boundary groups that are logical groups of the boundaries that you configure. You need to configure the boundary groups. Okay, so each boundary group can contain any combination of the following boundary types, such as IP address, IP address range, IP subnet, ID site name, IPv6 or VPN. For intranet devices, clients use these site systems for actions such as finding content and nearby management point. So we have some note here, which is the clients that are on the internet are configured as the internet only clients. So these don't use this boundary information. Okay, so only client in the intranet devices, it will use the boundary information, and we configure the site systems to the boundary groups, and those site systems will be used by the clients to discover the to find the content and the remaining things. Okay, so here's the simple example. So for example, here we have the SCCM console, the primary site. We have the Office 1 and Office 2. Okay, so we have the two routers. You can say router 1 and router 2. So for example, it is configured as the 10.10.10 series. It is, for example, 11.11.11 series. Okay, so these devices will get the IP address range like a 10.10.10 22, and for this one 23, like that. And for here we have the 11.11.11.25, and for this as the 26, for example only. So for this network configuration, we can create a boundary, okay, boundary, which is the, we can provide the IP address range boundary, okay, IP address range. So we can provide this something like 2023 we have the range, right? So we can provide the range like uh, from 10 to like 100, okay. So just like that here also 11.100, I mean 10 to, we can provide the 20, okay, or the 100, okay. So for these boundaries we can have the boundary group, okay. We can say boundary group 1. So for here also we can say boundary group 2. So in the console we configure the boundaries and then boundary groups, and we assign the site system for this boundary group. Then only the clients inside this network boundary, it will discover the primary site and get the files, okay. So like that we can have the two boundary groups separately. Otherwise we can have the single boundary group, and we can configure these two boundaries in the same boundary group. So either it is we can use either one of these. So this is a simple example about the boundaries and boundary groups. So here we have the boundaries. So we already configured the IP address range boundary here. So I'll go to properties. See, it is the IP range boundary, which is the client computer boundaries. So we have the IP address range like 11.22.22.111 and the 22.22.222. So this is the IP range, and we have the site systems configured and the boundary groups as well, client boundary group. So first we need to configure the boundaries, and then we need to create a boundary group. So here we have the boundary group. So inside the boundary group, we need to add the boundaries here. Okay, we need to add the boundaries by clicking the add button. After that, we need to provide the references. So we need to select this option, like which site is going to control that boundaries. Okay, so we have the primary site, so we can use the primary site, and also we need to provide the site systems. Which site systems are going to provide the the resources, I mean the required files to that clients. Okay, this is the MP and this is the DP. So like this, we'll configure the boundary groups as well. So if we have multiple boundary groups, we can provide the relations between those boundary groups, and we have the enable the feed downloads as well. Okay, so this is about the boundaries and the boundary groups in our hierarchy. So that's it, friends. So see you soon in our next class. Until then, have a great day. Bye.